And so God will give you a dream. And what I like about it is God will show up and call you by name, just like he did Joseph. And verse 20 says that after Joseph thought it over, then the dream came, then God called him by his name. Then he said to him some words that I'm going to say to you today. Don't be afraid. That's what he said. I know it's rough right now, but don't be afraid. I know it looks dark right now, but don't be afraid. I know the news you heard was a mess, but don't be afraid. I know you trusted that woman, but don't be afraid. I know the situation is a little embarrassing because you know we can find ourselves in situations where we feel embarrassed, but God is saying don't be afraid. I hear the word of the Lord say, but God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. So in the text we find Joseph after the angel came to him and he heard the voice of the Lord, he changed his mind. So tell somebody, you might need to change your mind. You might need to change. See, a lot of times in relationships, we think we can get something from somebody else because that person has a few flaws. But you might need to do like Joseph and think things over. And if the woman is a nut, if the man is a knucklehead, then you keep on moving. There ain't nothing to think about. But if God shows up to you and tells you something, you got to listen to the voice of the Lord. And the main thing is you got to have a relationship with him to know his voice. And so we find Joseph taking on the responsibility to be the earthly father to Jesus Christ. And the first thing God told Joseph about his responsibility was don't be afraid. And I believe that it's fear that causes so many fathers to give up. I believe it's fear that causes fathers to run from their responsibility. And fear that tells them that they're not capable of leading a family. Fear that tells them that your daddy wasn't no good, so you can't be any good either. But I come to tell you that God is saying to you the same thing he told Joseph, and he said, don't be afraid. We got mothers who are being the father to the children, and I come to tell you, don't be afraid. God is not going to put more on you than you can bear, but I just come to tell you, don't be afraid. Why? Because God's going to give you a different story. And different from the one where you end up alone and abandoned. And different from the one where you end up left out on a limb. Different from the one where you end up getting molested or getting hurt by somebody who you trusted. God's going to give you a different story. And so we've got to be careful when the pressure comes, and you need to know how to respond. I come to tell you the same way God spoke to Joseph in the dream, the child was born, that God's going to speak to you, but you've got to know his voice. See, what would have happened if Joseph got caught up in a bunch of emotion? What if Joseph would have slapped Mary? What if Joseph would have cussed her out? You realize he would have done that to the person who was carrying the very Jesus Christ, the very Savior of the world. He would have done that to Jesus. Well, I come to tell you, when you mistreat that man, when you mistreat that woman in your life, when you mistreat that person sitting across the road from you who you don't care too much for, when you mistreat people on your job, when you mistreat your husband, when you mistreat your spouse, come on, when you mistreat brother so-and-so because they parked in your parking space, come on, when you mistreat the neighbor's children because they stepped on your flowers, come on, I will come to tell you that you're mistreating Jesus Christ. That person has Jesus on the inside of them. Jesus is all wrapped up in them. How you treat people, how you deal with people, you got to realize that Jesus is on the inside of them. See, I'm glad Joseph didn't go off on Mary. How would you feel to be somebody who abused the mother of Jesus Christ? How would you feel to be somebody who abused the person who was carrying Jesus on the inside of them? Well, I come to tell you, you have. You're not perfect. Come on. See, you got to understand that person that you talked about like a dog has Jesus on the inside of them. You got to understand that person that you treat like dirt whenever you feel like it has Jesus on the inside of them. You have to understand that person that you don't want to speak to because you think that they're beneath you has Jesus on the inside of them. You have to understand that the bum on the corner who you won't even give a dime to, come on, somebody reaches out and asks you for some change. What is wrong with you that you can't give them some change? You are a Christian. You are an ambassador of Jesus, and somebody has gone through the humiliation of even making up a sign and holding a can, asking you for some money. If you go through all that, I will give you something. But I sit at the corner and I watch how mean people are. You don't know if that dime that you give them could help them live another day. But you don't realize that Jesus is on the inside of them. That waitress at the we had a terrible waitress yesterday, didn't we, Minister Kevin? She wasn't good at all. But we left her a good tip, and when we didn't have anything nice to say, we just said, we're fine. Because let me tell you this, we were in the Burger King drive-thru last Wednesday at the Bible study. And somebody behind us, it was like they were short-staffed, and somebody behind us on the speaker, we were up to the window by then, so we could hear them trying to place their order. So the man kept yelling, "Miss, I'm ready to order." So she said, "Sir," she's like, "I'll be with you in a minute." So he kept saying, "Miss, I'm ready to order. I'm ready to order. Sir, I'll be with you in a minute." So then she said, "Sir, I'm short-staffed. I'm working as hard as I can. I will be with." Well, this don't make no sense. Well, she silenced the thing, and she said, "I don't believe how stupid he is. You don't get smart with the person that's fixing your food. You know what I'm saying, ma'am?" I said, "I know what you're saying. I will leave you a tip. I'm nice to you. You are my friend. Is there anything I can do for you?" Because, she straight up, she was the manager. She said, "How stupid is he? You do not get smart with the person who's fixing your food." So this is the funny part to it. Tony and Jewel had left Bible study before us. And Tony, he's Jamaican. He talks very loud. He talks loud all the time. So he's not being smart most of the time. Sometimes he is. But when he gets in the drive-thru windows, he does get a little irritated. So when we got home, Jewel and Tony came in about 10 minutes later with Burger King. So first thing he said, he was eating a hamburger too. So he was saying, "That didn't make no sense. It took so long at the drive-thru." Me and Chris looked at each other. Chris was like, "Dad, please don't tell. What Burger King did you go to?" He was like, He had the burger in his mouth and everything. We said, "Which Burger King did you go to?" He said, "The one on Security Boulevard." We said, "Oh, thank you, Jesus." You got to be careful how you treat people. Because even that person who's going to spit in your food has Jesus on the inside of them. But did y'all get my message today? Do you understand that we really have to be careful how we treat other people? Because even, Saddam Hussein was created in the image and the likeness of God. It's hard to believe, but the person who's committing crimes and knocking old ladies upside the head, God made them. They have Jesus on the inside of them. And so it behooves us to treat
you praise.